Hey guys, Blur here, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, we have all sorts of gaming related content, from gear to software reviews to my live streams that I stream every Tuesday at 7 p.m. So if any of that interests you, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and that way you get notified anytime any of the new content comes out. Yeah, do that. You should do that. In today's video, we're going to be doing the third video in the Is Streaming the Future series, where we explore all of the different streaming services here in 2020. We started off with Project xCloud. The last video we did in this series was Nvidia GeForce Now, and today we're going to go ahead and explore Stadia. So, if you're ready, I know I am. Let's get into it. So taking a look at Google Stadia. Google Stadia was released in November of last year to very bad reviews. Now, what's funny about this is that Stadia was really a catalyst to kick off improvements to streaming services that already existed. GeForce Now finally left beta and went into production. PlayStation Now actually started to care. And you saw a lot of advancements with Xbox Project xCloud. I can tell you that if anybody really scared any of the big three, Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, into actually caring about streaming, it was Google. Stadia has two tiers of their service. They have a free tier and a pro tier, which is $10.99 a month. Their free tier only became available here in April of 2020, and their free tier includes really nothing crazy. It allows you to play 1080p games at 60 frames per second. You will only get stereo audio coming out of it, but unlike with GeForce Now, you don't actually have to wait to join any of their game servers, which is a bit of a plus. Now, to sign up, you do need to have a Gmail account, which shouldn't be too hard to come across these days. I think the majority of people have one. You do still pay for your games. You're not paying for those games through like Steam or through the Epic Game Store. So your game purchases don't actually migrate with you outside of Stadia. So Stadia's Pro tier, their $9.99 a month tier, gives you the same access to that games library. They do give you a free monthly game, a la Xbox Live and PS Plus. The Pro edition also unlocks the ability to go up to 4K. Stadia does technically support 4K at 60 frames per second. Unfortunately, that needs to be enabled by the developer. So if they don't feel like they're getting enough juice from Stadia to be able to push that on through their hardware, then you're not going to get it. The Pro version also unlocks 5.1 surround sound, so that's pretty good if you have a system that supports that as well. Also, if you want HDR, the paid tier is the only way that you're going to be able to get that. Now, to run Stadia, Stadia does have some official hardware that you can use. So officially, you can buy a $89.99 pack that comes with a Chromecast Ultra, and it also comes with a Stadia specific controller. If you want to play on a Chromecast Ultra, you must have their controller. Now, if you're not trying to play the game on a Chromecast, you will be able to utilize the Xbox controllers as well as the DualShock controllers, and I believe even the Switch Pro controllers will work as well. Google does support a slew of Android phones that I'll have listed on the screen here for you, just because there are too many to list out. But if you have any modern Android phone, you should be pretty okay. Also, as you could probably expect by a service from Google, it is actually not on any of the iOS devices, so there's that. As far as non-mobile devices are concerned, basically anything that runs Google Chrome is going to be okay. So you have your Chromebooks and any of the PCs that run that. Now, what type of internet do you need to have to be able to play on Google Stadia? Well, Google recommends that you have a minimum of 10 megabits download speed for 720p at 60 frames per second, a minimum of 20 megabits down for 1080p 60 frames per second, and a minimum of 35 megabits down for 4K at 60. Again, asterisk, as long as the game developer supports that resolution on their platform. You're able to go ahead and download Google Stadia if you live in the US, Canada, or a good handful of European countries. I'll go ahead and list those on the screen here for you as well. For my testing here, my internet is around 400 megabits down and roughly about 20 to 23 up. I tested the service on my Surface Pro, on my Galaxy S20 Plus, and on my gaming rig just to try it out because that one's got a wired connection. And talking about the free version of the game, it's almost impossible to play it. I couldn't sign up on the browser for it. It was giving me a ton of trouble, although the browser seemed to work fine once I signed up. The mobile app wouldn't allow me to go through to the actual game without signing up for their 1 month free trial. I actually can't even report to you what the free experience is like because they didn't let me. As for performance, I really did expect somewhat of a train wreck, just given all of the bad press that Stadia's had recently. But in all honesty, from a technical standpoint, it wasn't all that bad. Latency existed, but nowhere terrible. I will say that 4K wasn't really 4K. The way that they do the 4K is that they do kind of a scaling resolution that, you know, depending on your internet speed, depending on the load that the game has on the server, and depending on how many people are playing said game at any given time, that will help determine what your resolution is going to be, and it's going to change throughout you playing the game. In my testing, I found that the image seemed a bit soft. I don't think it ever went up to 4K, or frankly, even 1440p. And I did see quite a few frame drops, but nothing that would make the games unplayable, really. Also, can I take a second to tell you how fantastic it is that you can switch between devices so quickly? My gosh, that is fast. The moment you press on the new device for you to play on, it immediately stops the old device you were playing on and resumes gameplay on whatever the second device that you just pulled up is. It reminds me a lot about like the speed of a Nintendo Switch being docked and undocked. It was actually a lot faster than I expected. Now, I think that the biggest knock here is definitely in the game selection. There isn't a lot of games to actually choose from. It looks like Ubisoft is definitely well on board, as well as Bethesda and a couple of other developers. But by and large, the game selection is way less than you would get on any other service, catalog, console, anything. So then, what are my final thoughts on Stadia? Well, you know, from a technical aspect, honestly, Stadia's probably the most competent streaming service that I've tested so far. Also, I felt like the latency was less on Stadia than what I did find on GeForce Now, although could be slightly negligible. I honestly felt okay playing multiplayer games on Stadia. Now, that could be slightly because anybody that you're playing a multiplayer game with on Stadia is also playing on Stadia, so they have all the same limitations that you do, so maybe that made it a more competitive level playing field. But Stadia has some fundamental flaws at its core. The simple fact that you can only play on Stadia with people from Stadia is a big flaw, and one that we probably can't overlook. Also, the games library that is on Stadia is so slim, you would have to only want to play those handful of games. So, who would I recommend Stadia for? I still would recommend GeForce Now. I would still recommend GeForce Now over Stadia, if only because I see a proper market for this right now. If Stadia can build out their games library, keep a stable 4K 60 on their Pro version of their software, and then add maybe crossplay with PC users, I could really see Stadia being hyper competitive. Does Stadia deserve all the hate that they've been getting? I don't actually think so. But is it the current future of gaming in its current state? I would say not quite yet. If you like this video, go ahead and check out the other videos in this series. We have Project xCloud and GeForce Now already been tested, with more to come. So if you like these types of videos, also go ahead and hit a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that little bell icon so that you get notified anytime a new video comes out. I stream every Tuesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch at 7 p.m. Eastern, so come hang out if you got a chance. And with that being said, thank you very much for joining us on today's journey, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take it easy.